Coaches Take on Work is a community of coaches sharing our perspectives on work today. Come for the spicy takes and stay for the quick tools and tips. Find everything from best practices in management and leadership to our thoughts on trending topics in work and some fun things you may not be expecting.
I like us to have banter, so I start recording before we're ready.
Perfect.
But I thought you would be impressed. I have 2 full lighting setups I have purchased for podcasts. I have like a really big ring light of sorts, and then I have like a small one for my meetings, and I'm investing in my virtual
It looks
space.
nice. It's very consistent. You have a little bright shadow or
they're not
that goes
yet.
away.
Don't judge this. I don't have them set up yet.
Oh, okay. But generally you have a nice diffusion. I have this bright wall behind me.
Oh, so I'm starting from a good place from the expert. And you liked my bookshelf?
I like your bookshelf. It looks really nice.
Now,
I like your oil lamp.
Thank you.
Those are so fun.
Thank you. It's my first bookshelf without your consulting. All right, everybody, welcome. As I get some quick affirmation from my guest today on my layout of my video. I am Chelsea Seid. I'm one of the co-hosts of Coaches Take on Work, and I'm excited to have you all here today to join me and my dear friend and absolute expert interior designer, Carly Rose. I'll do a little intro for you. Carly is the founder of Rose Design, which is a residential and commercial interior design studio based out of the Bay Area, but serving everywhere. They focus on creating custom spaces and experiences for forward-thinking individuals, growing businesses, and companies. So Carly, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Chelsea. Nice to see you.
Yeah. And I'm lucky enough, speaking from personal opinion, Carly has both designed a pretty major office where we both worked with me and helped me a lot thinking about very small niche interiors in New York City. So I had to get her on to speak with a broader audience because I think you have such an eloquent way of describing how our workspaces sort of fit into how we actually work. So thanks for joining today.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice to say.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So as I love hearing you talk about this, what role does interior design play in work?
I think it has a huge role in work. Interior design definitely is the feel, it's the function, it's the form, it cues and shapes behavior. It also educates people, which I think is a really important part about our physical space. It starts to teach people who you are, for sure. Yeah.
That's why I had to hop on the call and get quick affirmation that my background was looking okay.
Who are you, Chelsea, by your background? No.
Yeah, let's do it quick. No, I love it. And we started talking, I think, probably March or April 2020. I was already working from home and the company I was working at was already fully distributed. But that idea was, I feel like, brand new, right? There were probably like 2 or 3 players in the full distributed team work from home space. And other than that, before the pandemic, we had, what was it? Automatic, Slack, like just a few companies. And so I called you and was like, what's happening? Like, how do we deal with this? Help me. Because I had clients suddenly talking to me about their office spaces that never came up in coaching. So give us a little journey story. How has interior design evolved?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of undercurrents that were happening pre-pandemic that the pandemic definitely forced to become an important feature of an office. And one of those is like safety and security and wellness, like giving people more personal space or adding details like little health and wellness stations in the restroom or in certain areas in the office. Those were slowly happening, and thinking about ways to make people feel comfortable and safe. Like, this is a safe place to work. This is a good place to work. That definitely became an important part of designing an office, post-pandemic. And then I would even say flexibility in spaces. Like, one space needs to serve a lot of people in different ways. more of an investment in a community space. Pre-pandemic, people would say, oh, here's our open space where we just all hang out. Drag your chairs over here, or we're going to pull a monitor for something. Instead, we're really designing those spaces intentionally to convert to different types of collaboration, like collaborative meetings, whiteboarding together. And then that space might transition to a happy hour, or, kind of a speaking area where people are sitting on the floor and you have kind of stadium style seating, like that space that can change from happy hour to a meeting, to a face-to-face meeting, to a group meeting, to a fun space where people can, hang out and connect as a team and bond. So big changes, definitely. I would say.
I'm curious too, with the in office with the at home, and we talked about this. I moved July 2020 because my husband and I could not accommodate work in a small apartment anymore. And so it was definitely a forcing mechanism of the pandemic. So what is the trend that you've seen with people's at-home workspaces?
Prioritizing them, like making them larger, making sure they have a chair. Well, a huge one, which we all know, is we talked about your background. So people are, instead of just organizing their work from home desk in that, little corner where it just fit because they're using it occasionally, not on Zoom, to redesigning their space so they can have the right Zoom background. And that's a huge change. And definitely people are looking for homes or apartments that have proper room for a work area.
Yeah. The chair.
Yeah.
How long did we talk about my chair? Probably way too long. But it's
key.
Right? Key. I think I was sitting on a dining chair.
Yeah.
Until I realized co-working spaces weren't going to be an option for me for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. And that for the work from home office, that chair is often like a key spending item, key budget item, key personal item. Chairs are different for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, zoom us forward. That was pandemic changed everything. Everyone cared about space and safety suddenly. Yeah. What about the hybrid work movement? What does that mean for interior design?
Yeah, I think the hybrid work movement means that spaces need to be designed with more specificity. And like design more intentionally. I think there's only a few companies that were doing the hybrid where they would have like hoteling desks and switch people on certain days. There weren't very many, and now a lot of people are doing that. What's interesting now for the hybrid workspace post-pandemic versus pre-pandemic, there's less hoteling. They might have hoteling for their employees that fly in and work, for 1 to 2 weeks a year in the home office. And that varies whose that is. But as a strategy for the staff, less hoteling. But spaces in the hybrid workspace now need to be more intentionally designed. How are you maximizing the ROI of that real estate spend for your company? Like, how does it fit into the work life of your employees and the productivity? And the results from it need to be quantified. Yeah.
Putting ROI behind everything.
For sure. Yeah.
And we talked about this a little before we began the podcast, and I recommended breaking it down. So I do want to break this question down into the categories, if you don't mind. So I'd love to hear how you approach designing a workspace, but let's start with an office, like a
home office.
This is my office. Yeah, let's start with a home office. I'm like, what's the difference between a home office and a work office?
Yeah.
But yeah, home office. How would you approach designing this?
I think first you need to define your goals. And then for a home office, you really want to map out how you're going to use it. Are you there 8 hours a day, or are you there 4 hours a day? What type of meeting, what's your work style? Are you someone who's on the phone for most of your day? Or are you someone who it's heads down, you're doing some work like an engineer? And I think you'll find that you will then be able to pick out the features that are key that you can then prioritize, like standing desk, not standing desk. How ergonomic does your chair need to be? And what type of adjustments do you need for that chair? those kind of things, or the privacy and acoustics. If you're someone that's on the phone, you might learn that from, if you kind of look at your work behavior, that might need to be where you focus first.
Yeah. We'll go one step further, but stay with the individual. How would you approach like my personal workspace in a broader shared office?
Personal workspace in a broader shared office. I would start with the same philosophy. Like, think about that person and how they have to work. I think we think about designing workstations for engineers a bit differently than we do for the sales team. Like, the sales team is probably closer to the phone booth, and maybe they have dividers added to their desk because that have some acoustic sound dampening quality to give some privacy, limit distraction to everyone else, and define their personal space. An engineering desk, we might kind of organize it with in a more dimly lit place, less bright sunniness. That's been always a request for someone who has that type of work style. So I would start with that. And then when you kind of think about someone's work style, then you think about how much personal space do they need? How much personal storage do they need? Someone who's in a sales role versus an engineer may not need the most expensive or most like bells and whistles ergonomic chair, but maybe an engineer does, because they're literally at that spot. They might need a larger investment in ergonomics because they're literally in that 48 width space for much longer time. Yeah.
Think about how much we move during the day. So interesting. It's like very holistic approach that I'm like, we haven't even talked about the decor on my desk. That's where my
Let's
head
talk
goes.
about, send us a picture of what's on your desk.
Yeah.
I won't send you a picture of mine. It's an absolute mess.
No,
this side is
like,
clean, and this side is like random objects that I have to manage.
Where are you right now? Is this your workspace?
I'm at my office. So I'm at my desk, and there's a small wall behind me.
Yeah.
Which is very bright, where I keep thinking I should paint it a color that, like, this is just so white and not that great. So a little softer, but light enough that it's not something that makes me stand forward on the camera.
But you're not often at your desk, right? You're going to be on, exactly as you were sharing, kind of going around to clients or maybe on site or meeting with vendors or.
Yeah.
I am here. So this has to feel pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have like what are your favorite things on your desk? Do you have photos?
I'll show you my absolute favorite thing on my desk. Oh my God, I love this. We're going a little off topic, but
I love it.
I grew this amaryllis.
Oh, Chelsea, that's beautiful.
And it's sitting in this beautiful pot I got for Christmas that has a gorgeous wooden stand that I can't pick up. And I just get to look at so I always have a flower, ideally one that has a smell, and a candle lit while I'm working. Then the rest gets a little messy. I do have, you'll recognize one of these. I have some trinkets too. I have, for those who are listening and not watching, I just picked up the classic desk knickknacks that I've collected throughout life. A pumpkin, a sculpture cactus, and a apple that I crocheted in a class with Carly a million years ago on a different life.
I can't believe you still have that special time.
They throw me back. They're all from different works.
That was a good day.
We went to the like sort of physical aesthetic, because that's what I think of when I think about interior design. What I like about hearing you talk though is, not that this is an afterthought, but like thinking about how much time I spend here in this space and prioritizing those goals. And like, am I on the phone? Am I not on the phone? My desk has been set up beautifully for every place we've lived, but ultimately we moved to a house so that I could have a closed room, like you were talking about. Like, suddenly we prioritized space post going to co-working spaces. So it's so much more holistic interior design than I often think of furnishings,
Yeah, it is. And interior design is about aesthetics, but I think when it comes to work, you could just design a space that's completely aesthetic, but I think we really have to think what's behind it, or it becomes unachievable. It becomes like fake and doesn't last. Like, the form and function really drives it. That aesthetic that you create and that you communicate is actually lands and actually lasts, which is key in the work life.
Yeah. What about I'm guessing when you approach designing with a company in a full shared workspace, you approach similarly with goals. If you don't mind sharing, what are some of those goals? Like, what are the trends when companies are talking to you about their designs? What are they focusing on?
Yeah, I think we talk about their business goals. Often they're talking to an interior designer when they've acquired a space. So, like, why did you acquire this space? How does it fit into your portfolio of spaces, or why here? And that usually kind of turns out like we're trying to grow XYZ thing, and here we're going to do that. So we think about that across the design. Maybe we speak to it in certain design areas. Sometimes it's about bringing a company together, like the individual people. So we think about that through the design. How are we reinforcing those spaces? How are we communicating that to the people? Like, what are those behaviors we want to nurture? Or they can often be, or one component of it can be, oh, we're hosting clients and guests. Like, this is a key space to literally hitting, like, literally operating our company, acquiring those sales, meeting people, educating our audience about what we do. And so, I mean, that's a really important business goal. So those kind of things start to extrapolate that. And then we think about that through the experience of the space, not only just how many people are here and what are they doing, but what do they need to learn while they're here and how are they going to do that?
Love that. Your ability to connect, the true like goals and KPIs of the company with the experience in the space. It's very poetic. I've always loved hearing it.
Thank
you. So I'm an individual. What advice? Like if I'm hearing this, I'm like, wow, I do not think about my space this way. Like it's probably time I start. What's your advice? How can we start?
I think if you're starting with your own personal space, like the basic, most simplest place to start is like organizing. And sometimes that's not the most fun. It's definitely a good Marie Kondo moment approach. And I think that teaches you a lot in that process. Like clean it up, organize, reflect, and see how you feel. Like, is it enough? Is something off? What does that feel like? And then you can start from there. And maybe it's a simple solution. Or maybe you need to put some more work in, or kind of test a couple things.
Make you pick for the personal workspace, whether it's at home or in the office. If you had to pick one thing that's most important to invest in, what would it be?
Oh, I have a slight toss up there. The most important thing to invest in, I would say, your chair. Back pain is a real thing, and we're, like the right chair that fits you, and not one chair fits everyone. So find the one that fits you. Like shorter people like need a shorter seat pan and things like find a chair that fits you, or standing desk. And if you get a standing desk, a game changer for me has been a pad that you stand on. And you can get ones that have, I think this is kind of cool, like they have texture on the bottom, so they give you different feelings under your feet, which is nice, and kind of encourage movement in different stances. And I think that's like really supportive. I would say like those are. Yeah.
What about company in a shared workspace? What's the most important thing for the organization to invest in?
Company in a shared workspace. I would put it a bit, instead of for a personal workspace, it gets specific to the good. I think they should invest in individual workspaces. Employees need a desk station that supports their well-being and their function. And like that particular space, if you can't get an amazing dining area or an amazing like chair in a conference room, that's fine. Just put dining chairs in the conference room, but that desk needs to be really comfortable and support them.
Love that. I'm like, yes, I did definitely agree. Sorry, one other surprise question we haven't talked about. You're inspiring me. The movements when I was in San Francisco, and I'm not anymore, I'm in Atlanta, but when I was in San Francisco, I was watching this movement to that big tables,
Oh,
sit where you will, no walls, no barriers. And that was a constant debate, I feel like. Now, this was 2018,
yeah.
2017.
Open floor plan, coolest place to be. And it was
Yes.
definitely like industrial, and it had like raw wood. There's this whole look to it as
Yes,
well.
you know what I'm talking about. A lot of white walls, raw wood, raw metals, open. You could see the pipes.
Soma, San Francisco.
Yes.
So
Okay,
cool.
that vibe.
Yeah.
What do you think it is now? Like, is it still that now? And what do you think it will be?
Oh, good question. I think there's more emphasis now on the individuality of the company in the space. Actually, like, who are they versus being something else? And maybe that's just where I'm positioned in the design world. But I think a good company isn't trying to look like someone else. It's who they are. And it also reflects their team. Like, I think that's a key component. They want to show their team in the space. So it's less like everyone gets this style conference table or this style space. A component of that trend back then was the open workspace, that you could walk up to anyone and have a conversation to facilitate interaction and productivity and innovation. Now, and there's studies around the benefit of that, but we had way too much of that. And so now it's about a balance, like have the space and the culture where you can walk up to someone and have a conversation and connect and learn and innovate. But also we have to have the space where we can concentrate. We're having trouble concentrating and getting lots of work done. So now it's a trend to have, I would say, more of a balance. Like, quiet workspace is an important part of the office design. Where it's going, I'm not sure yet. I don't think enough people have understood that balance. And I think there's a lot of spaces that are still catching up and bringing that in.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I wish I was still in offices when we were working towards the balance.
Yeah.
Sounds lovely.
Right? There was like only, when the office we were working in, there was like only one or two places that were actually quiet. And one person, it might have been me on certain days, was always in it. There's like a little nook or like the corner with the nice light.
Yeah.
So it was prime. Not a lot of people had. There was enough room for a lot of people to use it.
Totally. So whether you are, an office manager, chief of staff, a CEO, like someone actually in a company, or even us with our home offices or our personal workspaces, when is it time to work with an interior designer or designer?
When you're stuck. I think the time is when you're stuck. I think interior designers are in a unique position to solve a problem. It's the nature of design, and we do it from an aesthetic perspective. But our trade is also one of logistics and managing the finances. But with our design perspective, we can really, get you unstuck, just solve that problem. And you can either do it from a whole design package approach, like hand that project, that challenge off to someone or a designer to completely complete, or you can bring them in to consult and unblock you, and then you can move forward.
Yeah. And the consulting piece, so this is something you are the founder and run Rose Design. And I've been so inspired with how you've innovated and sort of navigated the changes that occurred around the pandemic with interior design. So you started something really unique here with a design consulting that I had never heard of before. So can you talk a little bit about that branch of your business?
Yeah, we also do. So part of our business is also virtual design. And it was really successful. I actually did it from the beginning of my business for some companies and individuals who really have the ability to do all the logistics, but they need the aesthetic support, the sourcing support. And so I created a virtual design package that's really a flexible program to support an individual or company with the specific area that they're stuck on. And we do a lot of custom tailored work just virtually from our office. We leverage our network and then basically give them a package to execute on their own. And then we're experts at execution. That has to be a part of interior design. So we still support clients in, how to solve whatever problem. Like we don't go away. We're still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that because it's like if I'm thinking about my home office or workspace, or I'm just like, this isn't doing what it needs to for me. Like the amount of people I talk to who say hybrid work, remote work is still not working for me. And maybe their company has moved fully remote or their company has moved fully hybrid. And so they don't go into the office all the time, but they're just not feeling as productive. They're not feeling as fulfilled. They're not feeling as happy at home. Like, I think it was just really smart from like a business perspective to start really branding or maybe selling even more than you were before. I didn't realize you've always done it. So just clearly you've always been brilliant.
Well, I never talked about it. Yeah. And I think we come with a unique perspective. So that's why anyone, wherever they are, can, tap into that to help them get where they need to go.
Yeah. Make your space beautiful for you. Call Carly. But seriously, I guess that's my cue for my last question. If people do want to talk to you about this more or stay in touch, how do you recommend they do that?
Yeah, through our website. They can reach us directly on there. You can email me. Also, we're on Instagram. We're posting either new projects or stuff that we're talking about in regards to work or the home. And you can even DM me on Instagram. We're on there. So we'll respond. Yeah.
If there's anything you want to make sure people take away from today, what would that be?
Ooh, good question. I would say like your space is personal. So it's not one size fits all. I'm someone who's really sensitive to workspaces or space. Like I won't be able to think in certain spaces if it's not right. Like I'm going to have to go somewhere else. So I would say like it is personal. Think about you and what you need and make room for it. Cause I think it definitely supports, your work and your ability to succeed.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing just the energy and passion. And I hope if everyone takes away one thing, it's not having the limited view on interior design that I've had through some of this. And you have such a good perspective of thinking about someone's holistic person and goals and their physical space. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Chelsea. So good to see you.
Yeah, you too. We'll talk soon. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Coaches Take on Work through your favorite streaming service so you don't miss a future episode. We are Coaches Take on Work. And for this episode's hot take,
the most important thing to invest in, I would say your chair. Back pain is a real thing.